All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of whatever we're calling this. What are we calling this? Mightiest Comics. Yeah, that's it. We are off to a good start here, aren't we? So, essentially, this is a podcast about comics. We're going to be talking about comics, Marvel Comics specifically. My name is Arden, and right here on my right is my co-host and good buddy, Sebastian Villanova. Hello, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. This is rocky. You're going way off topic
rocky
right
at
now.
best, yeah. So basically what we're going to be doing here is every week, Sebastian and I are basically going to read through 10 issues of Marvel Comics in chronological order, from 1961 to present day,
basically.
Right? We have a lot. If people do like this could be going for a very long time.
Very long time.
And so basically, we're gonna break everything down. Mainly story. Sometimes talk about the art, which there's not usually that to talk about there.
No.
But if there is some notable stuff, we'll talk about that. And basically, just gonna break it down, talk about the good, the bad, and like crazy, because there is a lot of that.
Especially these early ones.
Yeah, it's just there's no continuity. Nothing makes sense. The 60s were a weird time. Everybody was on drugs when they wrote these, for the most part, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. So, things to keep in mind here. If there are any people who are like comic historians out there and do not agree with the way we are reading these in order, that's completely fine. There are a lot of ways to read this kind of stuff. There are people who do it based on published date. There are people like us who go kind of by story arcs and we fill in everything kind of around the published date. There's a ton of ways to do it. We're not going to be talking about any of the expanded stuff. So there's like stuff from the 40s, and there's like out of continuity romance comics, and like Western stuff. Not going to be talking about any of that. That's not our focus. We're going to be using what's called the main 616 order, which is basically the main kind of superhero Marvel universe. Which has, if anyone wants to know how we're doing this and we're kind of where we're rating all this, we're going from a website called The Complete Marvel Reading Order. It is really, really good. The URL is cmro.travis-starnes.com. If you just look up CMRO Travis Starnes, you can find it. It's a great site for this kind of thing. Yeah. Tons of people to talk to about this stuff, and it's a very, very easy and well-designed way to do this. Yeah, basically, if you have an issue with cursing as well, I'm going to try to keep it to a bit of a minimum, but there's a lot of just really
weird.
Yeah, it's just so crazy, and I'm going to slip. So, Sebastian, how do you rate these things? Basically what we're doing is we are rating these on a scale from 1 to 5 stars, so how do you determine like how you rate these?
For me, it's more of like story rather than like the art. If basically things make sense to me, right, and it's just like not really out there, that's how I'm kind of rating it at this point.
Right.
I'm sure eventually that'll change in the future as the comics in themselves start to change, but...
I will say bad art absolutely will kill a comic.
Oh, yeah.
Good art can enhance a really good comic, but it doesn't necessarily save a bad story.
Nope.
I'm also usually rate more on the story side of things. If the art is fantastic, I will usually give an extra star or so. What I want to say here on this is, at least I can't speak for you, but I think my rating system is completely just like, it doesn't make a difference because I kind of shift how I rate things all the time. Like there are ones I've read some of these issues more than once. I've changed the rating a lot. Just it's partially based on how I feel, how I like personally each individual one, also just objectively how the story is and how just the quality there. That's where I'm going. We're gonna disagree on how we rate everything.
Oh yeah.
There's no way. There's just too much stuff, and it's just we all like different things. So we're gonna disagree. That is okay. It doesn't matter. It's all personal opinion. So do you have much history with reading comics or just comics in general?
Comics themselves, not Marvel, let's just say that.
Sure.
I mostly went to the DC side of things, but the Marvel, it's entertaining.
That is, that's one way to put it. Yeah, so did you start reading at like a young age, or are you is it a more recent thing, or?
Honestly, not really young. It's a lot more recently.
Okay, right. For me, I know the entire thing that kind of kicked off my interest in comics is the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the first Iron Man in 2008, and I was just like, this is so awesome. Like, I need to see more of this world. And when the Avengers came out in 2012, I just was so into it, and I started collecting old back issues of the Avengers, and from there, a couple years ago, it's almost 2 years ago now, I discovered this CMRO website. And so the past about year and a half, 2 years, I have been reading this on my own, and so I've read most of this before, and it's interesting looking back with a more analytical eye and seeing a lot of these. And so it's gonna be interesting to see how opinions change on all of this and how it all goes. So I think that should do it on introduction stuff. There will probably be tangents. So if you're looking for a very organized, cohesive podcast, this is probably honestly not the one for you. We've never done anything like this before. At least I have not. I don't believe you have either.
Nope.
So I think that should do it. We're gonna start with the issue that kicked off the entire thing, Fantastic Four number 1.
Number 1. Now, story by Stan Lee, art by Jack Kirby.
That is correct.
This is the first appearance of the Fantastic Four.
So, this issue has quite a bit of interesting history behind that. Would you like to get into that a little bit?
Sure. The publisher of Marvel, Martin Goodman, noticed that Justice League, of all things, DC, was selling well and wanted to make a comic with the team of superheroes. Talk of Stan was in the air about quitting comics, and his wife actually talked him into staying, and the worst that would happen was he'd get fired, and he was planning on quitting anyway, so what was the point of quitting, basically?
Yeah, so essentially what Sebastian said, that is how this comic came to be. The rumor is that Martin Goodman, the publisher of Marvel, was playing golf with the publisher of DC, who was kind of like bragging to Martin, like, oh man, Justice League is doing so well, like Marvel sucks. But this is a super influential comic, one of the most in history, because before this, from like the late 30s to late 50s, early 60s, it was called the Golden Age of comics, which was basically, it was like Superman, Batman, a lot. DC kind of owned the game there, and it was basically these super like larger than life characters who they never had any vulnerability, it was just like that was seen as a weakness, and so they went more for just the strength and the just absolute kind of perfection with these characters. So Stan was kind of sick of all that kind of stuff. He was kind of sick of comics in general. Superhero comics themselves had kind of been a little bit reduced in terms of how many there were, because after the war, kind of the interest just kind of waned after World War II, and so for a while it was kind of just not a whole lot on that front. And then Stan Lee was like, okay, I'm gonna do this my way. And so he wanted to really like make comics kind of more interesting and complex. And so looking back on it, it's completely wacky and silly. But for the time, this was like super just so far out of the norm, because he wanted to have like a family that had real problems and not just like everybody was perfect. And so there was a lot of kind of dysfunctional family dynamic between, especially the Fantastic Four, and he wanted to have the Invisible Woman, Sue Storm, actually be a part of the team instead of just kind of being like the damsel in distress, which kind of happened a lot anyway.
Yeah.
But it was, for the time, quite progressive, and they wanted to. It launched what became known as the Silver Age of comics, which is more kind of like a. It says more science based. It tries to be.
It tries to be, but
the science does not hold up.
No, the science is very not true, and it's way out there.
Yeah. So these are things that obviously they would not hold up today, but for the time, absolutely just incredible and very influential. So, Fantastic Four number 1. What were your overall thoughts on it?
Oh boy. For me, I'll just open up with my rating about it. I think, if I remember correctly, I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. Okay. Maybe you could push me to a 3. Overall, not the best. I'm gonna say that.
You're gonna think I'm crazy because I gave it 5 out of 5.
Did you really?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So here's the thing. Okay, let's break down the story here.
So, okay, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff happening. So basically, it opens with Reed Richards. He's in like a shadowy room. Basically, yeah. So he's in a shadowy dark room, and you can't really see who it is. And he fires a flare gun and the words, Fantastic Four appear in the sky.
It wasn't even Fantastic Four. It was a number.
Was it just
4?
four?
It was just
okay.
4.
Yeah.
And people are always like, "Oh, look, it's the Fantastic Four," when they've never met up before.
Fair enough. So people are kind of like freaking out. They're like, "What is this in the sky? What's happening?" It then kind of cuts to each of the other members. So that's Susan Storm, Ben Grimm, and Johnny Storm. So Sue is like shopping. Is that right? I think it is.
Yeah. Sue was, I think, shopping. Ben was trying to find clothes that fit him. Yep. Johnny was doing something with a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and so kind of Sue is doing her thing. She turns invisible.
Everybody freaks out.
Right.
Obviously.
And then there's this scene where she's in a taxi, and she like completely terrifies this taxi driver because she gives him like money, but she's still invisible for some reason. So it's
I
just
don't know why
floating.
she wouldn't just turn on. Like...
Yeah, that's the first of kind of a lapse in logic here. But so the cab driver like freaks out. He's like, "It's a ghost,"
and he drives off without taking the money.
Yeah, right. So as Sebastian said, Ben is shopping for clothes because he's the thing. He's the big orange rocky dude. Yep. We'll get into kind of more of who everyone is and all the power sets right now. It's kind of unclear at the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
He sees the flare, leaves. He just busts through the wall.
So that was another thing. How did he get into the place?
But then,
leaving, he just busts through the wall. He's like, "Oh, this is too small for me."
Yeah. No one ever makes doors that are big enough for me.
And then another thing is like everybody starts freaking out. Obviously, there's this giant orange rocky
monster,
dude,
rock monster,
and he just busts through the ground, rips open a manhole.
Yep.
Not even just the cover. No, he just ripped everything around it.
Yeah, the entire street.
Just dives in. Eventually, I think did he like swim or walk?
Swim. Yeah, he kind of. It seems like he swims. He's kind of like he looks like he's almost drowning in there.
And
then he's like, "I think I'm around where I need to be right now."
And so he just busts through the street.
Yeah, because there's
no manhole cover. Oh man.
Okay, so it cuts to Johnny, who is the Human Torch.
Yep.
I don't remember if he's in the car or if he's working on the car.
So he's literally in the car.
Right.
Becomes a flame in the car and just burns through the roof.
And there are other people in the car with him. He's not alone.
Oh yeah, they're just like, "You're turning on fire," and he just busts through the roof of the car. No regard for other people's safety.
Right.
Just busts through, melted the roof, and flies away.
Right. So then the government freaks out. There's like a flying flaming object through the sky. I guess that would be cause for alarm. And so they send planes after Johnny.
Yep.
Johnny I get that he's new at this, and they don't really have a lot of control over their powers, but he's trying to avoid them.
And
almost all of them get melted by him inadvertently.
Yeah.
And they all the pilots have to eject to survive because their planes are burning around them and they're like falling to earth. And then so they send a missile at Johnny, and so it's about to hit him. And then arm stretches out of a window, and it grabs the missile, and then it just throws it out to sea. Couple problems with this. First of all, it is very convenient
that he just flew to where Reed was.
Right where Reed was.
The
other thing is, this was like a nuclear missile, as far as I understood. Am I correct in that?
I think I remember them saying they sent a nuke after him. Yeah.
Yeah, and he just grabs it. Reed just grabs it with his stretchy arm and just throws it into the ocean. That would not help anything.
No, I mean, no, it wouldn't.
It wouldn't, obviously, Johnny would have a better chance of surviving, but he's throwing it just into the ocean where there are other beings in the ocean. We will talk about that in a few issues here.
Oh, yeah.
It would, if it's a nuclear missile, it's going to blow up in the water, and that's not going to help too much. I can't imagine it would end very well. Johnny then he freaks out. He's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna die," and he just loses his flame. That is the thing that happens a lot. He can lose his flame. It's not all voluntary. No. He can lose it, and so he loses his flame and he just starts falling through the buildings. This is such a weird image. Do you remember what this image was? What it looked like?
He just didn't Reed just stretch across the building and just caught him in air?
So he stretches his entire body out. Through the window, and so his hands are on one building, his legs are in the other window, and he just kind of droops down through the buildings, and so Johnny Johnny just catches him. Yeah, I guess. How did they get back into the building?
That's a good question.
I didn't really think about that.
They never explained that. No. Anyway, they get inside the building basically.
Right, and so they're all there. I guess they all were in there. So they were all gathered in the room. besides Johnny, and they're all there. They're all ready for the meeting. Cut to the past.
No, yeah, they just skip past and they run to the origin now.
Yeah. So it starts out basically if you've seen any of the Fantastic Four movies, the origin is basically the same. Reed. Okay, the big difference is Reed wants to go to the moon to beat the communists to the moon in the space race.
Was that what it was?
That's what it was.
Okay.
They wanted to beat the communists in the space race.
Okay. Because I thought he was just trying to get to the cosmic rays before the communists.
Okay. Yeah, this is 1961, I believe, is when this was published.
Yeah, I think so.
And so this was there was just space is all the craze in this area, you know. So they were like, yeah, those communists are trying to get there. We got to beat them there. But Ben, who is probably the only sensible one in this group,
he's basically saying no, I don't want to go.
Right. Because they are aware that there are cosmic rays just circling the planet.
Yeah,
not real science. And so he's like, yeah, it's too dangerous.
And then, I don't know who...
It's Sue.
Was it Sue? Sue called him a chicken, and he's like...
Yeah. He immediately turns around, and he's like, I'm not a coward, I'll do it right now, I'll fly any ship you want. And he starts, breaking tables and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, yeah, fine, I'll fly the ship.
I guess people were hurt for being called chickens back then, I guess.
It's like Marty McFly syndrome from Back to the Future.
Yeah, I guess it must be, because...
It's I don't understand... It does make a little bit of sense when you take into account the love triangle that there is kind of here. It hasn't been brought up in the comic yet. We'll get to that. Trust me, because I have a lot to say about that. At this point, so they're Reed says something about yeah, I'm engaged to Sue.
Yeah.
And Reed, okay, quick tangent on Reed. He's the worst, right? He's an asshole. He's the worst person.
In the comics they certainly make him seem like a complete...
Yeah. And again, we will get back to that later, because there's a section in this issue where, and I don't know if you really picked up on it, but he's just such an awful human being, and it's ridiculous. So then Reed says something like, I guess the government, and correct me if I'm wrong here, the government was like, it's not safe, the ship's not ready to go fly up there, right?
I think it was more of just it wasn't safe because of the cosmic rays.
Sure. So... Regardless, they don't have clearance to go up and go try to fly this rocket. Reed is like, well, it doesn't matter. We have to beat the communists, guys.
Yeah.
And so his brilliant plan is to break into a government facility and steal a rocket ship.
Yeah, steals the rocket ship. They successfully do it, though.
That is an issue because there's a panel, just a shot of the rocket, and it's a shot of the facility, and they're kind of in the facility, and it shows two guards on the outside. And right behind them, the Fantastic Four, they're just kind of sneaking past.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that would not work. Even in the 60s, I don't know how that could work. Do you have any explanation for that? Because I've tried to think about it, and either the facility is severely understaffed for what it's supposed to be, or all the guards are incompetent, or it's just not possible.
I mean, the most logical is incompetence.
Yeah, I don't... And there's an open gate too. They just kind of walked through the gate.
Yeah, I don't really understand how he got through the gate. They didn't really.
There's no security precautions on this entire place.
No, none
at all.
Besides the two guards,
right?
That you seemingly saw.
Right. Somehow they managed to get to the ship.
Yeah.
And they fly to space.
Yep.
And as Ben predicted, because he's the only smart person here apparently, even though Reed is a scientific genius.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the smart one, but no.
There are the cosmic rays. The ship gets hit with them. Johnny, I think, is oh man, I'm getting so hot. And he starts lighting on fire.
Yeah, he basically just gets really hot, starts lighting on fire. Ben, he's just my arms are really heavy.
Too heavy, right? Can't fly the ship.
Can't fly the ship. Ship turns on autopilot randomly, just automatically assumes, it's autopilot time.
If they have the technology for autopilot, why were there no guards? Why were there no security things at the place?
And basically once the ship lands,
this is where things get juicy, right?
Yeah.
So, Sue turns invisible. She's like, "Oh no, I don't know where I am." She doesn't say that. I don't think she says that. I don't know, but everyone else is like, "What happened? Where'd she go?" And so they all freak out. They're like, "What if she never turns visible again?" She does.
Eventually, she does. Yeah.
Right.
As they're arguing amongst themselves.
So then Reed just starts verbally assaulting Ben, and I have let me give me a second here to pull this up because I do have the panels. Okay, so this is on page, I think, 12 or 13, and then it's panels 1 and 2. Sue turns back to normal. Reed says, "Thank heavens, you're all right, my darling." And then Ben goes, "All right, eh? How do you know, wise guy? How do you know she won't turn invisible again? How do you know what'll happen to the rest of us?" Which is that's a valid question. And then Reed just snaps out of nowhere, and he goes, "Ben, I'm sick and tired of your insults, of your complaining. I didn't purposely cause our flight to fail." And then Ben just gets super mad, and he turns into the Thing. So it's the first appearance of the Thing. He grabs a tree and tries to basically kill Reed.
He basically tries to hit Reed with a tree. He didn't even question that he could pick up a tree.
Right.
He just picked it up and took a swing at Reed.
Yeah. And then so Reed then just tries to evade it, and he gets all stretchy, and he looks like a weird stretchy rubber band. He's flailing around. And then he just starts attacking Ben. And so they're kind of fighting each other, and then Sue comes in and breaks them up. And then so Johnny lights on fire, and he's like, "Oh man,
he
I'm on fire."
He learns he can fly at that point. I think that was because of after he started flying.
Right.
I remember him saying, "Oh look, I'm lighter than air," because he was fire. I believe.
Okay, sure. Okay, so then Reed is like, "Yo, we got to use these powers to help mankind." This is where it really just shows his true colors right off the bat, because he's the worst throughout all Marvel comics. But it's showing it right off the bat here. Because the four they're meeting. They've decided they're going to help people.
Yep.
And so they all stick their hands in the middle. And Johnny says, "I'm calling myself the Human Torch, and I'm with you all the way." Then Sue comes in. She says, "Same goes for me, the Invisible Girl." Then Reed says there's only one still missing, Ben. Quick side note, something we missed before. Sue is also not a great person, because she is the one who started calling Ben the Thing in the first place. Which is... again, I'm sure it'd be very startling.
Reasonable response.
But also, that is your friend. And that's probably not
the best
what he wants to be hearing right now. So, and then Ben goes and he puts his hand in, he's like, "I ain't Ben anymore. I'm what Susan called me, the Thing." And Reed Richards, the supreme asshole of the Marvel Universe, sticks his hand in and in supreme dick fashion says, "I'm calling myself Mr. Fantastic." Ben has just been called the Thing. He's seeming to be pretty depressed. He's like, "Yeah, I'm the Thing." And then Reed sticks his hand in, "I'm Mr. Fantastic." How much of an ego stroking... I mean, right. He's just... It's such a narcissistic, egotistical thing to say. And
I mean, in that situation, yes.
I don't know, because they hadn't even decided upon the name The Fantastic Four.
No.
He just says, "I'm Mr. Fantastic."
I mean...
I don't know, man. It's... On its own, it doesn't seem like much, but when you just kind of see everything, the piece of shit that he is in later comics, it really pops out to you as this is where it all started. He's always been like this.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, back to the present.
Right, cuts back.
The Fantastic Four are meeting in that building. At this point, Reed shows them the Fantastic Four.
Right.
Several atomic plants that are being destroyed and leaving nothing but craters. And then it switches to a scene of what was it the monster or was it just hands at that point?
No, the full thing popped up. Yeah.
Okay.
So that comes up and attacks this place, and then a mysterious figure pops out, and he's like, "Get back here! Our work is done." Fantastic Four collect all the data, trying to prove in a desperate attempt that Reed is actually smart by showing him getting data. And so they manage to locate an island which is right in the middle of everything. It's just Monster Isle.
Just Monster Isle. Who was it that said it wasn't a real place?
I think that was Ben.
Was it Ben?
I'm pretty sure
someone
it was Ben.
said that place isn't real.
Ben is the cynic. I'm pretty sure it was him.
And then they were like, "Well, here it is."
Yeah.
And Monster Isle. That's yep.
Yeah. So the Fantastic Four go there. True to the name of the island, they get attacked by just tons of monsters. So many.
Specifically a large 3-headed monster.
Right.
Which, at first, I know this is in the future, I guess, but At first, I thought it was Fing Fang Foom, the three-headed dude.
Dude, that is like so far out.
I thought it was like straight up. I thought they were gonna start doing that, but I was horribly wrong.
So,
easily defeated. Wasn't it Johnny? I think. No.
Was it Ben or was it Johnny?
No,
it was one of the two.
It was. I remember he went after Sue.
Right.
Sue turned invisible. Because she went invisible, he got
confused.
really confused.
Yeah.
Reed just lassoed it and threw it into the water.
Right. Another issue here. Reed is a normal person.
And he is somehow able to do the most miraculous things.
This thing is massive. Like, it's huge. And he just uses his arm as... It's not even like a rope. It just... No. Well, I mean, that wouldn't make much sense either. But it's just his arm.
He specifically thought out loud, I'll make my arm into a lasso, and lassoed his neck.
Yep.
Twirled him around, and then threw him in the water.
Yeah.
And it was defeated.
Right. So, then Giant Crater just spontaneously opens.
Yeah, with Johnny and Reed somehow were on that exact spot.
Right.
I don't know how Johnny got there. He just was there next to Reed the entire time, I guess. And they both fell into the hole. They fell into, like, this cave area where there was, like, this blinding light, and they passed out. Because of the blinding light. It was so blinding that they passed out.
Yeah. Right, and then, so they wake up in these suits.
Yep.
And the suits, it's explained by the villain who we're about to meet, that these suits protect them from the light, but they don't have tinted visors or anything.
No,
it's just normal.
It was just a suit with...
They look like hazard suits.
With, like, slits over the eyes. That was the only difference. Like, I don't know how that helped it, but it apparently did.
So, they look over, and they meet...
The villain.
The Mole Man.
Which is the main villain for this comic. The Mole Man.
I hate the Mole Man.
I hate the Mole Man.
So much. And, like, he gets worse.
He's so dumb.
We'll get to his origin in a second.
Yeah.
But, before that, it cuts back up to the surface.
With Sue and Ben.
Right. Another monster attacks. Ben just takes him out, super easy.
Easily.
And that's where that section goes. So we get back to the Mole Man.
And it goes back to his origin.
And this is a little bit simplified. His origin is essentially that he was so ugly that he went to find the center of the earth and got blinded in a cave.
Or he fell down a hole, I think. Got into a cave, got blinded, and learned to become a mole, basically, to use his senses.
He's basically Daredevil. He's like a lame version of Daredevil.
Basically.
He's like, I've got echolocation and all that.
Yeah, so, and it cuts back to Reed, Mole Man, and Johnny, and Mole Man's like, here, I can prove it to you. He throws Reed a stick.
Yeah.
And they basically have a duke out with sticks, and Mole Man defeats Reed.
Right.
Obviously. Because he has those senses.
Yeah. So, problem with Mole Man's origin, he falls into a cave, right? That's how he gets blinded.
Yeah.
It's a long fall. Like, it's a long fall. The impact does not kill him. The impact somehow takes away his sight.
Was that how he lost his sight?
That's how he lost his sight.
I thought he lost his sight the same way Johnny and Reed got knocked out.
No. He fell in, and it specifically says he's like, I managed to survive the fall, but the impact took away my sight.
Oh, jeez.
What is that?
Oh, boy.
And he talks so much about, like, it shows a montage. Like, he asked some girl on a date, she's like, ew, no. He tries to apply for a job, and they're like, you're more qualified than anyone we have, but you look so bad that you'd scare away all our other employees.
Yeah.
And then he goes on a journey to find the center of the earth, and it doesn't make sense. So that happens.
Anyway.
And then, in true villain fashion, he, of course, has to just tell the heroes the plan, because they can't escape, so he might as well tell them anyway.
I literally wrote this down because it was so funny. He literally quotes, now before I lay waste to you, behold my master plan.
Right.
Which,
if you, this is the thing that happens a lot. It's this, and people explaining what they're doing as they're doing it. That is basically the staple of 60s comics. He's like, yeah, I've got a plan that's basically to wipe out all the atomic planets so there's no power, I think is the reason.
I guess so.
And then he's like, yeah, I'll attack all of the major cities of Earth by sending mole monsters through a hidden network of tunnels that I have secretly created and nobody has noticed. So then Ben and Sue show up. Out of nowhere, first of all. It doesn't explain how they got there.
I honestly don't know.
I don't know if they just jumped down the hole. Basically, Mole Man's like, here's another big monster. And so Fantastic Four fight it. And Mole Man's like, while you're distracted fighting these monsters, I'll get away.
Yeah.
Reed grabs him and then leaves him with the monsters. Is that correct?
See, the way I took it was that Reed grabbed him. Johnny flamed on or whatever,
right,
and dug a hole for them with his intense heat.
So under the ground, right?
Yeah, as the comic explained. And after they escaped, I believe Reed said, "I let him go."
Okay, right. Why? Why would you let him go?
I don't remember his reason. I think he said it was like he wasn't gonna hurt anybody anymore or something.
Here's the thing, though. I think the network of tunnels still exist, and the monsters obviously still exist. So they couldn't take them all out.
Yeah. Basically, they get on their jet that they used to get there. As they're flying away, the island explodes.
Yeah. This is probably my biggest problem with this issue. There was no reason for that island to explode. I don't think anything happened.
No.
So, yeah, he's not actually dead. We don't talk about art a lot. I do want to mention it briefly here, because for the time period, this is just so good. Like, it does not hold up, but it is so innovative for the time. Like, there are some weird sections. The Thing does not really look like the Thing in this.
No, he looks like a blob.
He looks kind of like a pile of orange melted ice cream.
Yeah, I can see it.
And the Human Torch is basically just fire.
He's literally just fire.
And some of Reed's stretching drawing is kind of weird, but for the time it was really like so just out there and so influential, and it kind of coined the way that Marvel did art and stories in general. What they call, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's called the Marvel method. It's basically Stan Lee or whoever the writer is would send a synopsis to the artist, and they would say like, so they would draw everything, and they would send the finished art back to the writer, who would then fill in with the dialogue. And it was kind of this back and forth collaborative process between the writer and the artist. Super innovative kind of process, and it worked. It worked very well for the time. So I have some random notes here on this thing. I didn't really have a good place to put them in. First thing is the Fantastic Four generally live in New York City. Here they live in Central City.
Yeah.
It changes in, I think, issue 3.
I think 3 it changed. Yeah.
Right. Here's where the love triangle comes into play. Thankfully, this does not last long, but it does exist. There is a love triangle between Reed, Sue, and Ben. And it does not work.
Nope.
So it's not evident in too many places, but it is when they were first getting their powers. Ben grabs the tree to hit Reed with, and so Sue says, "Run, Reed, darling. He's turned into a." This is where she says, "He's turned into some sort of a thing. He's strong as an ox." And then Ben responds, "Reed, darling, bah. How can you care for that weakling when I'm here?" It's just it does come up in a few other issues. It does not work. It does not work. Basically, it is silly. It is real weird. Mm-hmm. The Mole Man is awful. I think the first half is really well done. I think the Mole Man really drags it down. On a just pure story alone, I would put it at a 3. But I think in terms of historical significance, this started everything.
This started everything.
I can't give it anything less than 5 stars. So that's where I'm at.
I'll raise it to 3.5.
All right,
but I just can't. This is so weird, and I just.
So, that is the end of Fantastic Four number 1. On to number 2, Fantastic Four number 2, called The Fantastic Four Meet the Skrulls from Outer Space.
Outer Space.
First appearance of the Skrulls, who are shape-shifting aliens, essentially.
Yes.
If you've seen Captain Marvel, you are aware of them. They're green.
They're green.
That's about all.
They can change into any form.
Right. So, it starts with, basically, the Fantastic Four, but they're doing some weird, questionable things.
They're basically not.
They're doing illegal shit.
Yeah.
So, Sue steals jewelry. The Thing, destroys an oil tower.
An oil rig. Reed turns off the power of a power plant.
Right.
Which...
It switches off the power.
What is Johnny? What
he just melts a statue.
Oh, it was a criminal... I mean, it's a criminal offense, technically, but,
Yeah. So,
not one worth calling the army on him for.
Right. So, then it cuts. The Fantastic Four, they all meet in the building. You probably know where this is going. They're all Skrulls.
Yep.
They don't actually... Okay, but here's the thing. They don't actually have powers. The only one that does have a power is the Super Skrull, who has not been introduced yet.
Yeah.
So they can shapeshift, but they can't adapt the powers of the person they
basically, for Sue, instead of turning invisible, he just shrunk down.
Like Ant-Man.
Johnny, he had this
It was an anti-grav device, and then...
Yeah.
a thermal bomb.
I think so.
Is what it said, but
and then the thing it was like something in his arm basically.
Yeah.
Like
right.
And then for Reed, he just basically changed his shape.
Right, because the scrolls, I guess, can do that. Although that seems a little bit wonky to me.
I don't know.
So the scrolls are talking to themselves. At least this is a better way to reveal a plan. Because they're not revealing it to the heroes. They're just talking among themselves.
They're talking amongst themselves, yeah.
Basically, they're like, yo, our plan is to turn everybody against the Fantastic Four to wipe them out so that there will be no opposition to the invasion force, which is currently circling Earth. And so they do that. The Fantastic Four is declared a public menace. I believe this is also the first appearance of the Daily Bugle.
Was that in there? I didn't even notice
I think it was one of the newspapers. There's a panel that shows a whole bunch of the newspapers with headlines like Fantastic Four going wild. And I think one of the headlines is the Daily Bugle, which, if you're not familiar, is where Peter Parker works.
Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
Right.
Works, yes.
So then the Fantastic Four are hiding in a cabin. They're like, what's our next move? Right.
As the army is slow... Is it army? I'm assuming?
I think it is the army, yeah.
Approaches them. They're like, we got you surrounded. They come out with their hands up.
Right.
And they take them to, like, this prison. And each of them, surprisingly, thinks to themselves, this prison can't hold me. And they all escape, basically.
Right. So, the prison cells are supposed to be designed so that they are tailored to each individual power.
Yeah.
So... Johnny's is asbestos, which I don't think is actually... It is a thing, but I don't think it's used correctly.
I didn't really research that, but...
Ben is like in a steel room.
Yep. Sue...
It's just in a normal one, I think.
Yeah.
She just turns invisible.
And Reed was in like a thing that had like basically nothing in it. Just a clear cell.
Johnny finds an air vent, and then he goes through... He does something there. I think it lets oxygen in, and then he's able to light up and burn all the asbestos. Sue basically does the fake out, the food guard fake out.
Yeah, she's not there, and he's like, what? Where is she?
Right.
Like, he didn't know she could turn invisible.
Ben just, like, batters his way out
Basically how he explained it is that, like, basically, everything breaks as long as you hit it hard enough in the exact same spot.
Which I don't think is true.
I mean, for steel, it definitely is.
Okay, sure, yeah.
But maybe not for all things. For a diamond, I don't know.
Sure. I think the most egregious, though, is Reed, how he gets out. He finds a loose screw?
A loose screw on the other side of the wall. He basically, he stretches his fingers out around the entire room, feeling for the most minuscule of, like, abnormality.
Right.
Finds it, and he stretches his way through a loose screw.
Yeah, and there's this scene where you just see his head kind of just popped out, and his neck is super thin, it's going through. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The guards figure out what's going on. Fantastic Four escape. They go to an airstrip, which... Why do you have an airstrip in a prison? I don't know.
The funny thing is that they get to the airstrip, they all meet up, and Johnny yells out, "Get to the whirly boy." He doesn't even call it a helicopter.
Yep.
He says, "Get to the whirly boy."
Gotta love that 60s slang. Yeah, so then the Fantastic Four have a plan. It's a dumb plan. It's so bad. Their plan is to actually do illegal shit so that the Skrulls will think that they are...
The Skrull version of themselves, basically.
It works.
Johnny's able to infiltrate the Skrulls.
Right. By sabotaging a rocket.
Yeah.
All the Skrulls show up to pick him up, except the one that's supposed to be him.
Yep.
That is convenient, but whatever. So...
And Johnny reveals that he's not actually a Skrull.
Right. So, they're like, we're gonna kill you now. And so he lights the flare gun up, and he starts attacking everybody. Finally, the Skrull torch shows up. Where he was, who knows. And he runs into the torch. Torch loses his flame. It looks like he's in trouble. The rest of the FF show up. They beat the Skrulls super quickly, and so then Reed is basically says, okay, we've got the four of them, but there's an entire invasion force above us.
Yep.
We can't stop them.
Yep.
It's never completely clear why the Skrulls don't just invade. They wanted to make sure.
That was the point. That they somehow knew about the Fantastic Four.
Right.
And they were basically like, get them out of the way.
Right.
Basically their plan was to let humans destroy the Fantastic Four.
Right.
They were like, get them out of the way and then we'll come invade.
So Reed is like, okay, The Skrulls think that there are people posing as us.
Yep.
Let's pose as them posing as us.
Yeah.
And try to fool them. So they go up and they're like, yo, there's too many defenses on this planet. You can't beat us. And then they have the first Marvel fourth wall break. Because they show, Rita's like, yeah, we can't beat them. And then he shows them pages out of other Marvel comics.
Really?
Yeah. I think it was Journey into Mystery and Strange Tales. Those are other anthology books like Tales to Astonish. So they show them that, and they're like, I hope they don't realize that this is actually from Journey into Mystery.
Yeah. It was just like
right.
a folk tale, basically.
Right. So the Skrulls are like, we can't beat that. We got to get out of here.
They're like, unchange yourselves, or turn back into your original selves, and
right.
we'll get out of here. It's like, no, we're going to stay behind.
Erase all traces of us.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
And he's like,
how noble.
How noble. He gives them like this like weird space thing. It's like a medal, I guess?
Yeah, he's like, it's basically like a medal of honor. He's like, you guys are like the best of our species. Your sacrifice will be appreciated. And they go down and they confront the Skrulls in the room. And they're like, they basically... It seems like they're about to kill them.
They basically threaten to kill them. The Skrulls
right.
beg for their lives. Like,
right. They're like, we'll do anything. We'll live as a normal...
We want to be peaceful,
right.
basically. They're like... Reed's like, alright, I come up with an idea.
So... He erases all memory of their previous selves.
With hypnosis.
Right. And turns them into cows. He has them turn into cows.
Turns into cows.
And just leaves them in the field.
Leaves them in the field. They're basically... The Skrulls became cows and they're staying as cows.
Right.
And that's how they solved...
And that's the end of Fantastic Four #2. The Cow Skrulls. They do show up again.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's first appearance of Skrulls. Kind of lackluster, but could be worse.
Could definitely have been worse.
What did I give this? I believe I gave it 3.
I think I also gave it a 3.
Like it's silly, it's ridiculous, but it's pretty fun.
The Skrulls actually felt a little menacing, unlike the Mole Man from the first issue.
Sure, yeah.
That's mostly what got it to 3 for me.
Okay, sure.
The story was a little out there.
Yeah, there are parts that don't make it, like the way they get up to the Skrull spaceship is by entering a random water tower, which is also a rocket
ship disguised as a water tower, basically.
And it had no defenses or anything. They just walked in and just went up there.
Yeah, no.
Like there's some weird stuff, but ultimately it's a pretty just decent little read.
On to the third one in the series, Tales to Astonish, number 27.
So, don't be confused. The previous 26 issues do not matter.
Nope.
They're basically anthology tales. They are not part of continuity.
This is basically where you first see Ant-Man.
However,
from what I can gather,
not as a superhero.
Not as a superhero, no. Just as a scientist.
Right.
Testing out the serum in the first place.
So, I think this was actually not meant for him to be a reoccurring character. I think it was meant as a one-off kind of horror kind of story.
That's mostly
but people liked him, and so they brought him back. So we were talking a lot about how Reed is a dick. Hank is probably the second or tied for first dick in the Marvel Universe.
But it didn't really show in this, though.
Not as much here, but he does abuse, like he hits his wife way down the line. So he's not a good guy. And he's also an idiot. Because it starts with him, scientists are mocking him. They're like, you've never done anything good. So he's like, I'll show you.
They basically mocking him that all the science is fake, or that he should just do real science like the rest of them.
Right. So he's like, all right, I've got my size changing thing. I'm going to prove you all wrong. He shrinks himself, leaving the growing serum, the antidote, on the windowsill.
On the windowsill. And he shrinks and he freaks out and he runs outside for some reason.
Yeah, he just runs out the door.
Like, I don't know why he didn't just stay inside.
Yeah. And,
he basically runs out of his house.
Right. And he falls in an anthill. I think he gets attacked by ants, so he runs and he falls in an anthill.
He tries to hide in the anthill, and there was a hole, and he fell down the hole.
Right. Into a pool full of honey.
Into a pool full of honey.
I'm sorry. This is an anthill, it's not a beehive.
Basically, he explained it as, this is what they use to store their food.
I don't think that's a real thing,
I never heard of
because
ants using honey to store food.
Right.
Or whatever.
I
don't think that's...
Yeah. I don't think it works. And it's basically like quicksand. He's like sinking into it.
Basically, until an ant happens to come and save him, actually.
Yeah, random ant. This is... Okay, yeah, and then so the rest of the ants then start like swarming him.
Again.
Right. Here's where we have... This is the biggest issue for me. There's a matchstick in the anthill. He finds it. Fine. That's not too out of nowhere.
No, it got dragged in while they were building their home.
He takes a pebble, he throws it at the match, and it lights it.
Which technically would make sense if you threw it with enough force.
Maybe. It's a bit of a stretch.
It's a stretch, but it would work, technically.
So then, he just finds a random, like, lasso? I just was like a piece of string,
yeah,
but
that's what confused me. He found a lasso, and he hooked it onto, like, a higher...
Like a rock up the tunnel or something.
The tunnel thing, and he climbs up it. Waiting for him is an ant. He's like, oh no.
This is possibly my favorite line in this.
Me and you are thinking the exact same thing.
So, he's in the ant's grasp. He's like, this is an issue, but then he says... But I have one advantage. A human brain which has learned the art of judo.
And he throws the ant off the
cliff. Like, this thing is giant compared to him. It's so big. Oh, yeah. It is like, it's so huge, and he just...
expressively says he's learned the power of judo to an ant and judos him off a cliff.
Yeah, so... He gets out of the anthill. I don't really remember how. He just kind of
I think he just runs out, yeah.
Which, that's also a little bit suspect. Those things are like mazes. I don't know if he would have been able to find a way out that easy.
He basically just...
He goes to his
windowsill, and he's like, how do I get up there?
Right, and the ants are going at him from the other
side.
Basically,
they're cornering him, and he recognizes... the ant that saves him from the honey.
Which, they are all the same. They all look exactly the same, at least the way they're drawn. They have no defining characteristics.
Not that I could tell.
So...
He basically just starts flailing his arms up towards the window.
Yeah, he's like, I hope this ant understands me. And so he hops on his back.
And the ant climbs up
the window.
He steps into it was like a tube of the serum.
Yeah, he just like bathes in it.
Yeah, and he grows back to his original size.
Yeah, and then basically he goes...
Back to what?
He basically says this is too dangerous, and he destroys all the serums.
Yeah.
And then he tells the science committee, he's like, I'm a failure.
You guys were right.
You're right. I need to focus on real science.
Real science.
So, I gave this one 3 as well.
I think I gave this one actually like a 4.
Wow.
Yeah, despite the ridiculous judo part,
right.
I thought this was a pretty good story. Like,
okay, sure.
I actually really enjoyed it.
I think I'm a little bit biased because of how much I hate Hank Pym.
Mm-hmm.
I hate him so much. But he's a significant character. First appearance of Ant-Man. Because of that, and only because of the first appearance of a influential character, that's the only reason I'm giving this 3. So on to the next issue, Fantastic Four number 3.
Fantastic Four number 3. Is this
I can already tell I don't think you liked this one. This is the Miracle Man.
Oh.
So, okay.
Okay.
So, we start off...
I just read one of my notes.
We start off, they're going to see a magic show.
Yes.
This magician by the name of the Miracle Man who can perform miracles. It's very self-explanatory. He can basically do anything, it seems like.
Yep. That's how he explained it, at least.
So he's like, yo, you're the Fantastic Four in the audience there. Come on up, and I'll demonstrate my stuff. You know, he's like,
yep.
He calls up the Thing specifically. He's like, I'm gonna show you that I'm stronger than you.
Yeah. So he pulls out. He tells the Thing, choose one of these 2 pieces of logs,
right,
and break it or smash it or whatever.
Right.
Thing does it in like 3 hits, I think.
3 or 4 hits, yeah.
And Miracle Man's like, ha.
I can do it with my pinky finger. He didn't say that.
No, he's like, I can do it faster than you, and he just slices it in half.
Slices it through. And this thing is like a huge log. It's a big log.
It's a big piece of log.
So you're like, oh shit, this guy's pretty strong.
Yeah.
So then they all get humiliated. They're like, this is like...
Thing gets upset and pissed or whatever.
So they hop in their flying bathtub, which... It's called the Fantastic Car.
Fantastic Car.
It's a flying car. It looks like a bathtub.
This is the first issue. This is the first one. They're in New York.
They're in New York.
The first one. They have the
headquarters of the Bachelor building,
right?
Which is their home for basically ever.
For forever to come.
So, Miracle Man is like, I'm actually the villain. He's basically talking to himself. He's like, I'm gonna kill everybody. And his plan is to bring a monster statue to life and terrorize people?
Yeah, for right now.
Right.
That was his plan, just to...
Other big thing here, though. First appearance of the Fantastic Four costumes.
Yes.
Ben's is weird.
Ben's is weird.
Because they actually try to fully put it on him.
His comes with like a helmet and like full clothes.
Right. It rips off whenever he tries to do anything. I think
he himself ripped it off.
Yeah, he's like, I can't move in this.
He basically, on the TV, while this whole suit thing is going down, Johnny notices the Miracle Man at the revealing of this monster statue, and he specifically says, look, he's doing something with his hands.
Right.
And the monster comes to life.
Right. He sends a note to the police.
Basically
saying, I have declared war on the human race.
On the human race.
Right. And he's basically like, submit to me or else I'm going to kill you all. It's basically what it seems like he says. So, the police are attacking the monster. It just vanishes.
This is my note. As the monster was attacking the people, the police run up with bazookas.
Oh my god, you're right. Yeah.
I don't know.
I almost wrote something down about this, but
when in history, but police were never commissioned.
That is true.
Bazookas.
Yeah.
Just straight up rocket launchers over their shoulder. There were two of them. Two of them came running up.
Right.
I don't think they ever fired at it with the bazookas.
Yeah, I don't know if they did. Either way, though, also, it's a terrible idea to fire bazookas among, because there were civilians there.
Oh, yeah.
There was a crowded
civilians
place.
Were there.
Right.
It was,
So, the commissioner basically is like, Fantastic Four, do whatever you need to do to take this guy in.
Basically. So, it goes back to the Baxter building. They get in the Fantastic Car.
The flying bathtub.
Yeah, basically. And they split apart into 4 little, platforms with handles. The car itself splits up, and they go their separate ways to try and, cover more ground, I guess.
So another monster is trying to rob a bank at this time. Reed tries to capture it.
By stretching across buildings
to,
create a net, basically.
The Miracle Man comes over and throws a brick at Reed.
Just
knocks him the fuck out.
Yeah.
And then they just leave. So then Johnny finds a monster trying to steal an atomic tank?
Yep. More specifically, one, I guess, Reed designed.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
It was towards the end where it was he's getting away with our atomic tank.
Sure. Sue and Ben show up. Johnny basically just burns the monster and it just melts down.
And he's like, oh wait, this is an actual monster, it's just paper mache. How did the Miracle Man get it to move?
So, then the Miracle Man is somehow got hold of a flame retardant gun?
Yeah. And
from the army.
But
he's just in civilian clothes. He's just standing there. So he shoots down the torch. Also, the torch falls, but he survives. He falls He's flying and he falls and he lands. He hits the ground hard and he doesn't die.
He doesn't. I don't even think he just has his flames out basically.
Yeah, he's like, oh man, that hurt, and then he just washes it off. So then, the Miracle Man leaves.
He basically brags that he's defeated the Fantastic Four and they can't stop him. Sue's like, not all of the Fantastic Four.
I will say, this is one of Sue's best moments at this point.
Oh yeah,
she turns invisible, infiltrates the tank, and just takes off after him. Ben gets mad, and he does a quick recap of the Fantastic Four #1, just in case you missed it.
First issue.
This is the next instance of the love triangle. It's the last one that I saw, but he basically says, I wish Sue would look at me the way she looks at you, Reed. She says this to Reed Richards' face, and he doesn't react at all. This is the man who has attacked Ben for, saying that he was wrong about flying into the cosmic rays, which he was.
He definitely was.
And now he's coming on to his wife, and Reed is just whatever. Human Torch gets sassy. He's I think basically he's like, maybe if you weren't so ugly, she'd actually like you, Ben. They attack each other, and then Torch gets out of there. So the Miracle Man at this time is hiding his tank, when a dog out of nowhere
starts barking at the Invisible Woman.
Right.
Miracle Man figures like, "What's up?" to the dog. He's like, "Why are you barking?" He's like, "Wait, dogs don't bark at nothing. I know you're there, Invisible Woman.
Yeah.
Show yourself."
Right. Right, okay, so this is when we kind of figure out what Miracle Man's deal is, because up until this point it's been unclear.
Yeah.
He hypnotizes Sue to call the Fantastic Four there.
He's basically like, "I'm going to finally defeat them once and for all."
Right. So...
Fantastic Four see the signal, they
go to the junkyard.
Go to the junkyard. Miracle Man pulls out a giant key.
It's like a huge key.
Just a huge key. Ben's like about to charge him. Reed's like, "Wait, this can't be right." It's just... And the Miracle Man, all of a sudden, the key turns into a machine gun.
Yeah. And just starts shooting
He starts shooting at Reed specifically.
Right.
And Reed just turns himself into a bouncy ball, and he's like... He specifically says, "Have you ever tried hitting a moving bouncing ball?"
Yeah.
And so Miracle Man's obviously missing every single bullet. Ben, for some reason, decides to step in and
He just takes all the bullets.
Just takes all the bullets. Somehow it hurts him.
Yeah.
Even though he's a giant.
I think he's like... I don't know if he says this. I know it has been established in other points where if you hit him enough with enough force in the same spot over and over again, it can break through his skin.
I guess that must have been it.
Maybe.
Somehow.
Who knows?
Who knows?
So then the Miracle Man runs out of ammo and he's like, "I'm going to race my tank through the streets." And so he gets in this tank and just starts like driving it through the streets. And so the Fantastic Four arrived in their helicopter.
The Fantasticopter.
Right. The Miracle Man sabotages that.
Yeah, Fantastic Four take a race car and have a car chase with an atomic tank.
So I think Johnny even said, I think Reed is like, or Johnny, one of them is like, this is going to be slower than anything else, pretty much. And I believe it's Johnny that then says, "Who cares, basically? It'll be stylish, so it does not matter if we catch him quickly." This is the man who has declared war on the human race and is currently racing an atomic tank through the streets.
Atomic tank.
And they're like, whatever.
Eventually, they catch up to the atomic tank. The torch flies up, and he basically just glows really bright, and he blinds the Miracle Man.
The Miracle Man is now blind, and he releases Sue from the trance. This is where all the problems come in.
Yeah.
Up to here, it's been okay.
It was a good issue until...
It is revealed... He's just a hypnotist.
He's just a hypnotist, and he's just been hypnotizing everybody.
When you look back at it, it makes no sense.
Nope.
And so I think Reed has figured this out by this point. He's like, I knew he was a hypnotist because an actual Miracle Man wouldn't need to rob a bank. He'd just be able to conjure the wealth for himself.
Yep.
That's kind of a fair judgment.
It's a very fair judgment.
Yeah.
It's like, it's true, that doesn't make sense.
The problem here, though, is that he has hypnotized people into believing that these monsters exist and that they're a thing.
Yes.
The monster is the one who actually robbed the bank.
Yep.
If it's an illusion, how could it actually have grabbed all the money and got out of there? Same thing, monster grabbed the tank. If it's an illusion, it shouldn't be able to do that.
He somehow made everybody believe all these things.
Except here's the thing. We know the tank is an actual thing. The tank, he did steal the tank.
Mm-hmm.
But it shows very clearly the monster is the one that picks it up. So, it doesn't work.
It doesn't, no.
Thankfully, the Miracle Man does not show up for a while. He does appear again.
Oh, God.
But it's not until, like, Fantastic Four number 130-something. We don't have to worry about him for a while. So then the Torch gets fed up of all the arguing, and he just kind of... He pieces out. He leaves the team.
He says, I don't want to be a part of you guys anymore. I don't ever want to see any of you anymore. Right. And he leaves.
That's the end of Fantastic Four number 3. First time I read this, I gave it 2 stars. It's not that bad. It's kind of fun. I kind of liked it. The ending is stupid. Miracle Man is dumb. He's so bad.
See, I gave it 2 stars.
Okay.
I
had fun with it. I'm going to give it 3. It could be a lot worse. That's generally the case with Fantastic Four and Spider-Man once it comes on. Even when they're bad, they're usually readable.
Enjoyable.
Right. And I will always take fun and wacky and silly and dumb over just plain boring.
It was certainly enjoyable. It was a good comic up until the point they revealed that the Miracle Man wasn't actually a Miracle Man, just a really good hypnotist, basically.
Sure. That's the end of FF number 3. Going straight into Fantastic Four number 4. Introduction of Namor the Submariner. Were you familiar with him before reading this?
I had heard the name before. I knew who he was, yes.
Okay. Basically, for those of you who don't know, because he's not a super common character.
No, he is not.
He's basically Marvel's equivalent of Aquaman if Aquaman was really angry all the time and just wore a Speedo. Yeah. I think that's the most accurate description. So, this picks up right where the last one left off. Reed, again, is an asshole here. The Torches just quit the team. Reed basically goes up to Ben and says, "It's all your fault he left."
What?
It's not.
It was always
terribly wrong.
It was always Johnny and Ben that were arguing.
They're always arguing
in the first place.
Sure.
And that's why Johnny left, because of all the arguing.
Right. But also, it's not a productive way of going about figuring things out.
No.
So they're trying to find him, the torch. They're trying to find the torch. So they take the flying bathtub and go search for him. Reed just is waiting by the road. And he just lifts a biker off of his bike.
No care for the motorcycle. He just straight up yanks some dude off his bike and is like, "Have you seen the Human Torch?" Basically.
And the bikers don't even give a shit. They don't say anything. They're like, "Oh, you're Mr. Fantastic."
The one dude that got yanked off is like, "Oh shoot, this is Mr. Fantastic."
Right. He's like, wait till I tell all my friends about this.
And he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
Sue, I think, just goes like a place where Johnny used to hang out, just turns invisible and just waits.
Yeah.
Ben was the only sensible one.
Yeah. Ben goes to the place where Johnny's working on his cars, because that's where he normally hangs out with his friends.
Yeah.
He busts in, they start fighting. The Thing turns back into Ben.
He turns back into Ben randomly.
Right. This has happened before, actually. It happened in Fantastic Four number 2, if I recall correctly.
I think so.
And it happens a lot more. Basically, there'll just be times, whenever it's convenient for the story, he'll just turn into
Ben
himself.
Not just turn into a normal human.
Right.
Then, like, seconds, minutes later, he turns back into the Thing.
So, Ben is like, "I'm me again, guys. This is great. I don't even care about the torch anymore." So, Johnny just flies off.
Goes to, like, a bar.
It seems like, I thought bar or homeless shelter, because the people were very obviously homeless.
Who knows? Basically, they start talking about the Submariner. Submariner, yeah. That's what it was.
Johnny, so, okay. Quick bit of history here. The Submariner is actually a character from the 40s. He existed in Marvel Comics since the 40s, and then he kind of just left. And so he fought alongside like Captain America in the 40s, back when that was a thing.
Dang. Okay.
And so Johnny is reading a Marvel comic about the Submariner. Who just happens to be at that same exact place.
So basically, a bar fight gets out, and Johnny stops it. Right. He's like, "Wait, look who this actually is."
Shaves his beard.
With fire.
He takes his finger, burns off the beard.
And look, he's like, "Look, it's the Submariner."
And they're all like, whoa.
And so Johnny basically abducts him, throws him into the ocean. He's like, "Remember who you are," like it was like some Lion King crap. And Submariner's like, "I'm the Submariner. I can do all these things."
This is terrible of Johnny, because he has no idea if this guy really is who he thinks he is.
It's basically just an assumption.
Right. So Namor has amnesia. And he's like, "I wish I could remember who I am. Like, I don't know who I am." And so Johnny's like, if I drop him in the ocean, maybe he'll remember.
He'll remember.
But
muscle memory, I guess.
Like, it was very possible that was not Namor, and he just dropped this guy in the ocean to drown.
Oh, yeah, easily.
So anywho, it is Namor. And they're like, "Yo, you'll be sorry that you made me remember. Because now I'm gonna kill everybody."
Well, basically, so before that, he goes back to, he's like, "I gotta go find my home." Discovers his home's all destroyed.
Right, that is important.
Blames humans for it.
Well, okay. It is their fault, because it was from atomic bomb testing sites, destroyed Atlantis.
Yeah. It's definitely their fault. But, like, he goes back to Johnny, he's like, "You're gonna regret me having me remember."
Johnny, who is still just chilling on the side of the ocean for some reason.
Who knows how long it took the Submariner to get back to his home.
So Atlantis is destroyed. All his people are gone. He's like, the atomic radiation wouldn't have killed them, but they're gone now. They had to look for a new home. So he gets mad. The rest of the team show up.
Well, no. So he basically threatens to, like,
It's pretty much he's like, I'm gonna kill everybody.
End humanity, basically. Yeah. Johnny shoots the flare from
right.
that they all had, I guess, the entire time, and they all show up, and he's like, Ben instantly just gets mad at him again. Like, you're only supposed to use this for emergencies. This isn't an emergency. He's like, now hold up, I haven't even explained it to you. He basically explains the whole thing with the Submariner. I think he conveniently left out that he himself
just made him come back. Yeah,
basically.
Giant monster shows up from the ocean.
Yeah.
Namor blows his magic conch shell. It's like a horn.
It was like a horn. Basically, it's like,
but it's like a seashell horn.
It's like the only thing that can control the beast or whatever.
Right. And so this monster comes up out of the ocean. Reed flies off in his bathtub section to fight it. The Torch tries to help him.
Yeah.
But they both get beaten back. So then the Thing has the brilliant idea to strap a nuclear bomb to his back.
And dive, basically, not even dive.
Just walk into his mouth.
Walk into his mouth.
Because the monster has conveniently just, laid down on the surface.
Yeah.
And so Ben just kind of walks in there. And this thing's on a timer. It's not, remotely detonated. No. It's on a timer. He's like, I gotta get in and out of this thing quick, otherwise I'm gonna get blown up.
Whilst trying to drop off the bomb, there was a monster inside the stomach. He fights it. The bomb gets lost somewhere in the stomach.
Right. Ben gets out of there.
He hears it tick and he gets out of there. It blows up.
Creature's done.
Creature's dead.
So the Fantastic Four then meet Namor officially.
Yes.
And Sue turns invisible, grabs his magic horn out of his hand.
Yep.
But Namor is able to grab Sue, who then turns visible, and Namor's like, "Ooh, you're hot. I like you now." Basically,
you're gonna become my queen.
Right. He basically says, if you marry me, I won't kill your species. I don't know if I completely buy that Namor would do that.
No.
He's super mad at these people, and I don't think it works. But anyway, either way, Sue's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Just don't kill anyone. And so, the Torch, in the style of Barry Allen, the Flash, flies so fast that he makes a wind tornado.
Wind tornado, which considering he's a Human Torch, would probably be more of a fire tornado. But...
yeah, sure. And then this wind tornado sucks Namor up into
the air,
makes him pass out.
And
Namor is super strong, by the way. He's a very powerful human, and I don't think that would have worked. But
I mean, technically, it's if anybody's seen the Flash show, very first episode. He does the tornado to basically suck the air, reduces the oxygen so you can't breathe.
Wasn't he just... I thought he was just running in the opposite direction of the tornado to counteract it.
I don't know.
And, made it disappear.
Basically, the tornado would make him pass out because of the lack of oxygen.
Namor just gets thrown into the ocean, pretty much.
Yep.
And then that's pretty much the end of it. I think the Torch is this doesn't change anything. We're still not on good terms. I'm still not part of the team.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that. So, how do you feel about this one?
I think I gave this one 4, actually. Yeah, 4 stars.
It's really good.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It was actually pretty... Despite, the